are trying to keep themselves safe. So, it was hard to make out Farzad's features in the shadows. Who was that? The man who kidnapped me and my family, he said, and the fear in his voice tore at my heart. I don't know where my family is, but I have to get them back. We stopped at the edge of the trees, looking out onto an empty street. A soft mist drifted lazily down like the rain earlier had tired out the clouds. The streetlights glowed orange to the droplets marching away down the road. Come on. We made it halfway to the next intersection before a car pulled around the corner. I ducked behind a bush. Farzad crouched beside me as we watched it drive slowly by. That's them, I whispered, from the house. The car stopped partway down the street and a man got out, standing in an orange circle of light. He peered at a box in one hand, turning this way and that. Farzad and I stayed frozen in the shadows. The driver leaned out his window. Well, it should be here, the man said. He glanced up the street towards us. That way. My heart began to beat wildly. I could barely think beyond the panic that we were going to be caught. If he got close, he'd see us. There was no way we could move without attracting attention. Farzad's hand went to the amulet around his neck. Please don't be scared, Lita, he whispered, and then he took the necklace off. There was a soft pop, the bear displacing, and a rippling shimmer in the space where Farzad had been. Red sweatshirt and pale skin disappeared. A tail wrapped around my ankle and golden eyes met mine. I froze, absolutely still, paralyzed by the sight. Then the world lurched. I pried my eyes open with a feat of willpower, clutching my stomach and trying very hard not to throw up. The nausea curled up my throat, then faded slowly. We weren't hiding behind a bush anymore, waiting for the man in the dark jacket to stalk down the street and discover us. Now my own house was in front of me, dark and ominous in the rain. We were just within the trees, in the spot where we'd stopped briefly after fleeing the basement. What just happened? I croaked, when I had control over my stomach. What are you? Though I could answer that myself, I realized, because I took in the full sight of Farzad. Red scales, shimmering in the faint slick of water the drizzle left on his hide. 4 legs, a long, anxiously moving tail. A pair of stubby horns gleaming up from the sides of his head. Wings folded flat against his back. Huge, luminous golden eyes. He sang a soft waterfall of bell-like sounds and nudged his head gently into my side where I sat in the mud. The chain of the amulet was tangled in the claws of one hand, paw. Okay, you're a dragon. Are we teleported? I took a deep breath and suddenly found myself laughing. Right then, I guess I know what Mari was hiding. He ducked his head in a nod. My eyes caught on something behind one leathery ear. Farzad, do you know how that man found you? The pointed head shook side to side. A worried whistle questioned me. I shifted to a kneeling position and reached out a slow hand. May I? A little light blinked behind one ear. I probed around it carefully, shivering to feel the smooth scales radiating heat beneath my fingers. The light came from a tiny metal capsule glued to his scales. I think there's a tracker here, I told him. We need to get it off you. I need my tools. I looked up at the house, unsure if it was empty. I guess we'll find out. The house was empty. I called for Mari, but there was no answer. The front door lay in splinters on the floor, rain blowing in through the wide-open entrance. I hurried upstairs with Farzad and pulled the curtains in Dad's workroom shut tight before switching on the light. He curled up on the floor, burying the back of his head. Stay still, I told him, gripping the capsule gently with a pair of pliers. I worked the head of a screwdriver in under the edge, chipping away at the glue until I could get some leverage. It popped off. Done. I placed the thing on my workbench next to the mess of parts from Charlie. A puff of air blew across the back of my neck, and Farzad spoke in a human voice. That's how he found me? He sat down on the stool next to me, staring down at the tiny cylinder. I think so, I said, then asked, didn't you have brown eyes before? He was human again, still wearing my red sweatshirt, but his skin looked darker, and his eyes were nearly the green of the still blinking light. What? His fingers went to his face, as you could feel the color of his eyes. I don't know how it works, he admitted. Mari gave the amulet to me so we could talk, and so I could warm up faster. Dragons don't function well when we get cold. I tore my gaze away from the magic amulet my father had made and pushed aside all the questions. We need to decide what to do, I said. We have maybe 10 minutes before that man can drive back here, and we can't stay. Should we go to Ethel? He asked uncertainly, if that's what Mari said. Can you teleport us there? He shook his head. Nope, sorry. I glanced back at the tracker. We could just leave it here and hope the head start might be enough. But they knew the route we'd been taking and might be able to guess we'd need to go direction west, away from Eccles' house. Given altitude, 10 feet, low enough to stay hidden in the trees. Load in the avoidance code I'd written earlier so she wouldn't hit anything. Plug in the cable from the computer to her microcontroller, and wait while the loading bar filled. I listened anxiously for the sound of a car outside as I taped the capsule to Charlie's chassis. If I was right, and the middle cylinder was a tracker, this would confuse the people chasing us. Charlie had about 45 minutes of battery at full charge, more than long enough to get us to Eccles and safety. The laptop beeped. The code had finished uploading. I grabbed Charlie off the table and gestured at Farzad. Let's go. What did you do? He asked, following me downstairs. We stepped out the back door, hurrying again towards the forest. Headlights swept the side of the house, a car pulling up outside. I ducked into the trees, holding Charlie up on the flat of my palm. Car door slammed. Clicked the on button, the rotors began to spin, the quadcopter lifting gently off my palm and turning to face west. Fly, Charlie, I murmured to her, fly. When she reached 10 feet up, she buzzed away into the darkness. We hunkered down in the shadows. Get ready to teleport us back to that road, I whispered. Farzad pulled the amulet off. His tail wrapped around my ankle again, and we waited. A muffled voice called from the other side of the house. Again, door slammed. It worked. I kept my voice low, but the excitement bled through. The car was pulling away, lights and engine noises fading down the road. They'll follow that signal until they catch it. Let's go. The nausea wasn't quite as bad the second time, but it still took me a moment to gather myself when we reappeared by the bush. I held out the amulet to Farzad and dipped his head to let me put it around his neck. What did you do? He asked as soon as he had a human body back. That was amazing. I didn't know you could do magic. Magic? I looked at him quizzically. That was just programming.